So, planning in this crazy time. One of the things we've been talking at Mindful, I'm just going to turn off our webcams once I've introduced everyone. So, planning in this crazy time, we've all been talking at Mindful that planning has now become a daily task. We do it in our own business every single day. We are looking at what's the impact, what's come in, where are things at, and we used to do this on a monthly cycle, but I think for all businesses right now today, it's planning every single day. In today's session, we've got at the top, you can see Michael. You can see Michael is our CTO, and he's going to share with you guys little planning tips and tricks in this crazy time. How can you get planning quite quickly up and running? And then Kurt on the other side is going to talk to you guys a little bit about how do we distribute the information and the data that relates to that. My name is Belinda Johnson. I'm the CEO of Mindfull and really passionate just to help everyone, including ourselves, get through this very difficult time. And I believe the only way to get through this is just to plan, see the impacts, react every single day. And that's what we're doing in our own business. So I'm just going to turn my video off to make sure that we have enough bandwidth for the session. So, right, Mindful. So what our why at Mindful, we want to help our customers make sense of this fast changing world. And this couldn't be more important than it's ever been for us. Things are changing so fast every day. Every day I'm talking to my customers and things have changed again. I'm just amazed at the phenomenal amount of change that's happening every single day. And underpinning all of that, of course, is planning. So this is what Mindful is all about. That's what we're very passionate about, what we want to do with our customers. Our values are, we live it. We are really passionate, and that'll come through with the next two speakers, Michael and Kurt, when they talk. They are really passionate about what we do. We do try and make things uncomplicated. The world is so overloaded with data and complications that we really try just to strip it back, make it really simple for everyone to understand. I used to be a CFO in my previous life, and I was always so frustrated when dealing with IT businesses that they use all this jargon and complicated things. You didn't understand what they were saying. So we're very passionate to make it very simple so everyone can understand it. And then last value is to keep it real. This is where expectations, where we have to have those honest discussions with customers. Sometimes we have to say no, sometimes we have to recalibrate, but it's really, we want to be a real business, make it really simple to deal with for our customers. So those are the values here at Mindful. We do three things. We're a niche business. We have about 52 people, office in Wellington, Auckland, and we really do just three things. We do data management, and that's all things data, data governance, data lakes, data vaults, all of those sort of great things. Where's your data at? And Kurt and his team are very passionate about that. Now, data, as you all know, is the new gold, and we need to protect it, look after it, take care of it, and we're really passionate in that space. Then we do planning, and that's our bread and butter that we've been doing for a lot of years. And even planning over the years have really evolved. And still today, planning excites me to get going. I love all the different integrated planning, all the planning people are doing, and it's still an evolving process. So Michael's going to take you guys through that journey. How can you guys in these difficult times do planning quickly, fast, without having to come on site? How can we get through these times with planning? And then narrative reporting. We're not going to touch on that today, but Wayne Gilling is our principal lead that looks after narrative reporting. And that's all those annual reports, monthly reports, board reports. And if you're a government client, this is going to be very important going forward as we all have to report back about the COVID impacts. So today we're going to talk to the top two, not the narrative reporting. So Michael's going to take you guys through a planning solution. How can you guys get up and running very quickly to do planning in these difficult times and understand the impacts of this COVID stuff instantly? What's the impact on your people? What's the impact on revenue? What is the overall impact? And then what is the actions we need to take to combat those things with all the subsidies we have, all the banking covenants that's out there? How do we leverage what we have and what the impact is today? And Michael's going to take you guys through that journey. Kurt's going to talk to you guys about the data. Really, in these times, we had a session last week. It's really critical that you understand where your data is at. Is it protected? Where's it sitting? All of a sudden, everyone's data is distributed, right? Everyone's sitting on laptops in their home at the moment consuming data of their business. So having a great data governance policy right now is critical. and understanding where the data is at and protecting those assets. So Kurt's also going to take you guys through how do we consume the data? How does people sitting in their home every morning consume the impacts of this? And we're very passionate about that. Like I said, compliance reporting is the last thing we do. That's really helping. Once we've done all that planning, those impacts is to report to the agencies that we have to report into, right? Whether it's a government body, whether it's our shareholders, they still require those sort of narrative reporting, and we can help some customers with that. So that's just what we do at Mindfull. We're a niche business. We've got a great culture. We all love what we do. We're very passionate individuals. And our clients really love us. On our website, there's a handful of case studies that talk about some of the things we've done. But one of the things we pride ourselves is that real connection with our customers to understand the business problem and what they really want to do, and then bring technology and skills to solve those problems. So we don't lead with technology, but we really go through the process of understanding what is it that our customers really need in today's crazy times. So that's it from me. I'm going to pass you guys over now to Michael, who's going to take you guys through a planning. How do we plan in these crazy times? And let's see, Michael, how do we plan? Passing it over to Michael now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Belinda. So today, as Belinda mentioned, I'm going to take you through what we consider to be our standard solution. This is all of the different planning areas that you'll see today in it. But over and above that, we've got the ability to add on and extend the solution as well. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to take you to that. At the moment, you can see the main landing page. So this has all of the different areas here. I'll focus mainly on forecasting, very similar process to the budgeting, except you've got your actuals coming through. So I'll quickly run through that today. We'll look at the reporting and metrics side of things, and then obviously in today's climate scenario planning has become more important. So we'll look at how you can perform some what-if scenarios just to assess the impact of COVID-19 and as well. There's also a cost allocations model, which is concerned around allocating your overheads and looking at profitability too. Anyway, so I'm just gonna, well, before I do that, I'll just launch into the metrics application. So basically, I guess one of the key things that I want to point out is what we have here is a complete performance management solution. So you essentially load in your actual data, and you need to do that for forecasting anyway. And then you have the ability to build different plans. So obviously the great thing about that is you can track how you're going at any point in time. So here I'm looking at the standard dashboard that we have just for looking at performance. You can see along the top I've got some selections. The sample data for this model is based on 2019, but the concepts are the same. I can change my entity, so if I just wanted to look at one business unit, one area, I've got the ability to do that as well, and just see how the dashboard's updated. So I guess one of the key points is you don't need to build specific dashboards and things like that for different areas. You can leverage the same ones, and these are just filtered based on what security is set up in the model. Right, if I just go back here, I've also got the ability just to dive in deeper and look at my individual cost centers and how I'm performing and so forth. Here, this is quite key. This is my metrics table, so I can just select the 4 or 5 metrics that I'm interested in and with our solution, and I can just use this as a way to monitor how I'm performing. Here I've got my current plan. I'm comparing that back against my target, which may be my budget scenario, or maybe some target setting that I've actually done in the solution. I've got trend indicators, so you can build in tolerance levels and things like that just to see how you're performing, and then just an indicator as to whether I'm meeting that KPI. We've got both financial KPIs like cash. There's an integrated cash flow and balance sheet model in here as well as non-financial KPIs such as headcount and FTE and so forth. Over here, I can see that I've got a more focused area, so I can look at the key metrics that I want to analyze in more detail. So if I'm interested more in expenditure, I can just select that and I'll see the dashboards updated accordingly, and I can track visually how I'm going across the different plans. Obviously, these visualizations are just the default ones. The type of visualization can be set when you get up and running with the solution. All right, just real quickly, I'm just going to drill through to my regional view. So this is just another page in my dashboard, which basically gives me a slightly different analysis. And really, I just wanted to show here that there are different views of your data available too. Here I'm looking at my different regions down the side. I've got these filtered so you can do top 10s and top 5s, so you know where you need to focus your efforts. Here I'm looking at expenses. If I did want to look at net profit, I can see that I'm not performing quite so well here as well. And I can understand those variances, and you can do quite a bit of a variance analysis with the solution here. And you can look at the information graphically as well. Okay, so that's just a real quick look at the metrics or the dashboarding capability. What I'm going to do now is just go through the forecasting application quickly. So if I select forecasting, you can see all of the different forecasting areas that we have. We've got purely just P&L based forecasting, which allows you to plan at account cost center level. We've got a workforce planning model in here as well, which I'll take you through when we go through the the scenario planning session. We've got a full sales forecasting model, as well as capital expenditure too. So if I just navigate to the P&L planning application, what I can see here is just my main page, which tells me where I'm at in the process. I can see that I'm looking at my working forecast scenario. I can refer back to my budget scenario and so forth. I'm looking at the 2019 year here. I'm just going to show you how you can do rolling forecasting as well. I can obviously plan as far out as I want. Here I've got 3 periods, but we have customers who plan for 10 periods as well. So that's very, very flexible here. And I'm looking at a specific cost center too. I just navigate into my entry area. So you can see that this is one of the main templates in the system. And what I can see here is I've got some other filters as well. The solution's capable of allowing you to plan the way that you want. So you can plan by currency if you've got different markets you want to look at, by cost center, or even by project as well. You can build P&Ls by project and solution too. And when I look at my view over here, I can see that I've got looking at total expenditure. So I've got a part of my chart of accounts down the side. I can see that I've got my periods across here, and some of them are grey, which essentially indicate that these periods have been actualized. So I've just fed actuals into my modeling, and then the remainder of the periods I'm extrapolating out my data. One of the key things here is you've got the ability to change these numbers at different levels. So I can go through and I can add 9K for a particular month, and I see that reflected in the total. I can also say I want to gross that up to 40K and have that spread downwards away as well. So there's a lot of data spreading capability, and I can even do that at a higher level as well. So if I want to look at marketing and advertising, I might say, well, actually, I want to decrease that by 5%, and then I can see those numbers flow into my plan. And as I'll show you with the scenario planning, you can roll this up and up and up even further. So you're not looking at a single business unit, but you're looking across your whole organization. So that's just a real quick view of the types of templates we have for planning. You can get more detailed. We've got what we call our workings model here, which allows you to plan a given account in more detail, like break down your assumptions. So here I'm looking at my marketing account, for example, and I've got a couple of different campaigns here. And obviously some periods have been actualized, but I'm planning out the remainder, and I can adjust my numbers around that accordingly. I won't say I want to. Oops. And one of the things with these models is they've got different drivers. So I'm basing this based on calendar days, but I could base that quarterly, and that all updates as well. And I guess the key thing is, as I change my plans here, wherever the numbers are referenced, I'll flow back to. So I'll see that their marketing lines updated accordingly over here as well. And then from here, you can go through the workforce planning and the sales planning applications, and build up those plans. They all link back to this master plan. Finally, in the planning section, I've got the ability to visualize my data in different ways as well. This really just shows you the types of visualizations we have. We've got things like tree maps. I can look at how I'm trending over time too. Heat maps are quite useful, I find, just for looking at your different phasing profiles. So maybe you're looking at a given expenditure item, and you can see that it's quite hot in certain areas. So the color's a lot darker. That basically means obviously I'm doing a lot of sales activity here, so I can see that my cost of sales is a bit higher here. But as I'm planning out my expenditure items, I can look for opportunities to flatten out my forecast if I wanted to as well, rather than concentrating my expenditure in certain areas. Okay, so that just gives you a real quick overview of the planning capabilities. From here, as you do your planning, our solution also enables you to do full reporting and analysis of those plans. If I just click through to the, oops, I need to dive through to there. I just click through to the reporting section. I can see that I've got a number of different standard reports, such as my profit and loss report. And from here, I can bring up that report, and this is a profit and loss variance report, so I can actually see, how I'm tracking against my working forecast, against my budget, and so forth. I can actually change what I'm looking at here as well if I did want to compare that to another scenario. But I've got the ability just to have these standard reports in the system too. This one's a variance report, so I can go through and actually make comments and have those numbers stored with the data as well. So there's quite a bit of capability there. I've also got the ability to take these reports and snapshot them out as well. Oops, clicked on the wrong button. To PDF, and I can even say if I want to cycle through my different entities and just consolidate all that information into a single report too. So I can do that on the reporting side. In terms of analysis, I mentioned before that the solution has an integrated balance sheet and cash flow. So if I just draw through to my financials application, I can see all of my different statements, and I can obviously analyze these and change filters that I've got along the top. Our balance sheet and cash flow statements. Here I'm looking at my my forecast one, so I can see some periods are grayed out. I could look at my budget and essentially compare those as well. And I guess one of the key things that I wanted to point out is just around the modeling of these statements, the balance sheet and cash flow. There's a whole heap of assumptions that allow you to generate these financial statements as well. So if I just come through to my admin application, I just bring them up really quickly. There's things like you can play around with the exchange rate and use forecast exchange rates in the system. You can change profiles, so I can change my collection profiles for accounts receivable and so forth. I can simulate which is collected and what percentage is collected in each month. Obviously this is quite relevant now because my standard profile may not reflect reality given the COVID-19 scenario. The same for payables. I can model when I want to pay people and various other assumptions that I have here as well around tax, GST, interest rates, and inflation rates, etc. So there's quite a bit of modeling built into the solution, but you've got the ability to extend that if you want to as well. Okay, so I've gone through that all really quickly, but I just wanted to focus on, what some of the capabilities were initially, and then just go through the scenario planning application that we have as well. Okay, so I'm just going to come into here, and just one of the things that the solution enables you to do is set up your own scenarios. So I can go through and set up as many scenarios as I want, and then make adjustments at different levels. I'm actually just going to log back in as my admin user to start this up. So I'm just going to start here on the setup scenario tab just to take you through how it all works. Basically, you've got the ability to create a different version or a what if scenario on the fly. So I can come in here and I can create a new version. I've actually created one just so I can simulate the COVID-19 situation that we've got at the moment. And then you can set a baseline version, and that's the one that you're tracking against. So in this scenario here that I'm going to play out, basically I've spent all this time building my 2021 budget, and then obviously COVID-19 hit. So that's going to have an impact on my business. So I need to make adjustments to the plan just to see how I'm going to cope in that situation. Some of the considerations that you've got when you're building these scenarios is which models do you want to run? Do I still want to look at my gross margin or my sales forecasting model? Do I want to model at the detailed level? Or do I want to turn that off and just do simulations at the account level? So there's quite a bit of flexibility just around the way you plan as well, and different levers that can be pulled when you're doing this modeling. Down here, I've got my security section, so it's very important, obviously, if I'm creating contentious scenarios as well, that I assign permissions appropriately. So I've got the ability just to set up who can see what scenario to. And then I've got the different variables here. So I can copy and paste data from one of my other plans. So what I've done is I've actually taken my working budget data for 2021, and I've copied that into what I've called my working plan or my COVID scenario here as well, and run that, and that basically just brings all of the data in so that I've got these two plans to look at and compare, what changes I'm making over and above what I had already planned for my budget. Down here, I've got the ability to bring actuals into my model as well. So I can start off with my full year plan, and then as the months go by, I could bring in actuals into the model just to see what the impact is, as reality hits as well. Okay, I'm just going to start off in my EBIT view. So what I'm looking at in this scenario is what's the impact on EBIT once I adjust my sales, and what kind of things can I do to ensure that I break even or still remain profitable. And if I start here, I can just see effectively my P&L and my different revenue and expenditure items that I have. What I'm going to do now is just go into the sales area. And there is actually a full sales model behind this where you can look at your gross margin percentages and obviously make adjustments there. You might want to adjust your unit costs, your unit price and so forth. You've got the ability to do that, but just at a high level, all I'm wanting to look at the moment is my sales units, and just look at what I believe the impact to be there on my current sales. What I can see here is I've got my sales broken down by region. So I've got my east area, I've got my north area, and then I've got I've got a view by account manager or rep down the bottom as well. I'm just essentially reporting on the same data. And you can have as many of these different roll-ups or hierarchies as you like too. But what I'm going to start with is I'm going to say, okay, we were planning for 213K sales in the east, and then you know, obviously COVID-19 hit, so I'm going to zero that out because I don't believe that there's much happening in that area at the moment. And then if I come down here, I can see that I've got this industry indicator which I've added as well. So that basically classifies my customers by industry. I've got a tourism customer. I'm not really expecting too much from them at the moment either. And as I'm making these changes, you can see the impact on my financial statements. So I'm looking at my EBIT number. I could just as well be looking at my cash number or my debt number as well if I'm wanting to look at my modeling on the different balance sheets. And then I might say for that one, another one I might want to decrease by 5% or so forth. There may even be new opportunities in here, so I may actually want to increase revenue streams in certain areas, particularly if I'm in the food industry or so forth. And then once I've done that, I can obviously come back to my main P&L and I can see I've got a bit of a deficit here as well. I probably could have changed some of those sales a little bit further, but I'm down 798K before I was quite a long way up. And you know, then I can look at what I can do around replanning. Here I've classified my expenditures as variable, fixed, and discretionary. So that's quite useful in my decision-making process. I can come in here, I might want to look at my variable expenditure, marketing campaigns. I might want to do a decrease across the board. So it's drop marketing and advertising by 10%, for example. There's various other shortcut keys that I can use as well. And as I'm making these changes, I just want to point out that these can be applied across all of your entities. Here I'm just looking at one, but they're also applied just across all of the different business units that you've got in your system as well. So you can, this is rolled up to quite a high level, but you can also make the adjustments at a lower level if you wanted to. I might be looking at some of these other items, subscriptions. Let's say I want to decrease those by 50% as well. And I can go around and I can play around with my numbers here. I mentioned before that we've also got more detailed modeling around personnel and capital expenditure. So I'm just going to run through that now. If I click on the personnel tab, this takes me to my personnel view of the world. I've still got that EBIT number, which is great because that's the number I'm actually chasing. But now you can see I've got my remuneration number. So remuneration is pretty high. I've got 1.18 mil. I'm planning for some benefits as well. Some of those might be mandatory, other ones might not, which we'll look at in a second. I've got my I've got some bonuses planned. I'm planning for some new hires here as well. And then visually, I can see, you know, what my plans look like over the time. I can see that my budget and my working plan are essentially the same right now because I haven't made any adjustments. I can look at my leave profile as well, which we'll get to in a sec. And then I can see my raw data down the bottom too. So what I'm going to start with is in this model, I've got some high-level assumptions which have been applied in my previous budget round. I planned for a salary increase and bonus, so I might want to start by saying, yep, let's take those out of the plan and see what impact that has. And I can see as I start playing around with these numbers, I might actually do the same for the travel allowance too, because you know, people probably aren't going to be traveling too much this year as well. Or I may just want to decrease it, but I'm just going to take that out for now and then look at the impact. So just by playing around with some of these high-level assumptions and saying, okay, we're not going to worry about salary increases or bonuses this month. We're dropping the travel allowance. You may have other allowances you want to drop as well. Obviously, we've made quite a reduction there already. I can see that my bonus number's been removed. From here, next, I might want to look at you know, the modelling we do around leave taken. I can see that people are taking their leave in December and January like planned, and then just small chunks around the rest of the year. I just want to come through to the assumptions area here. and change that profile to see what the impact of that might be on my financials. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take our standard 1.2 days that we've planned here and change that for December and January. So in this plan, I guess I'm expecting people to work over the break, whereas normally a lot more people would take leave. And I can come in and let's just say let's look at 10 days in each of those periods annual leave as well. And then if I come back to my view and refresh my dashboard, I can see the impact of that. So I can see that curve's essentially moved from here to here as well. So I've made a little bit of savings, and you know, I've just modeled out that extra annual leave that's going to be taken there. And you know, I'm looking at my total remuneration here. Obviously, I can look at different components of my salary. I can look at my headcount and FTE and various other things as well if I wanted to. So that's what I can do at a high level. We've also got the ability to marry this up with, you know, more bottom-up planning. So I'm just going to go through and replan my workforce at a slightly lower level now. So when I draw through to this is our actual personnel model where we've planned our new hires, as well as any changes that we're making to our current staff base. So I'm going to start off on the new employees tab. So what I'm going to do here is I was actually planning a few new positions, but I'm going to take those out of the plan now because I don't want to really hire new people at the moment. And as I do that, I can always go back to my scenario planning dashboard and see what the impact is there. I can see I'm down to negative 98K, for example. If I come back to my personnel planning again, if we look at some of the scenarios that organisations are doing, some of them are looking at adjusting their FTE. So instead of people working a full work week, they may work a part week. So I can change that to 0.75 or 0.80. And I could see what the impact of making those changes would be. I've just used a shortcut key, which basically copied those numbers down along my plan. Obviously, I could go through and make those adjustments individually for specific employee as well. And I can come back to my dashboard and, you know, refresh. And I'm getting closer and closer to my break-even target. If I'm wanting to do something, some other modelling around unpaid leave, for example, maybe I've got people that in my organisation that are open to going on unpaid leave to look after family members and so forth. I can come through here. Again, I've also got this classification which tells me how important my positions are. So I've got this mission critical position here. I don't even know what an HSST is, but you know, obviously I can use that in my decision making too. I may not want to adjust that person's plan. But some of these other ones I can come through and I can specify, I could specify, say, an unplanned or an unpaid leave date for them as well. And I could look at, you know, what impact that has on the modeling too. Let's just take that down to there. I guess the other thing I could do is, you know, if more radical measures were required, you know, which isn't great, but sometimes it is the case in today's climate. I could look at, you know, what's the impact of terminating or redundancies as well. And the solution will do some modeling around that too. All I need to do here is just specify an end date next to the employee, and those assumptions will effectively flow through to my dashboard as well. If I come through here again, let's say let's just do something a little more radical down here, just so we can see a bigger impact. Okay, and after making those changes, I'm barely profitable again, but I'll kind of reach my target. So anyway, that was really what I wanted to show around the scenario planning. Obviously, there's other areas you can look at, such as your capital plan, particularly if you're chasing a cash number or making sure your debt's at a certain level. Obviously, we're modeling all of our capital purchases here. I've actually excluded these, but you can turn on and off these things and simulate what the impact may be as well, which is again quite powerful. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to cover off in this session, just to show the capabilities of the solution, both from a budgeting, forecasting, reporting and analytical perspective, right through to a scenario planning aspect as well. So at this point, I'm just going to hand over to Belinda so that she can introduce the next speaker.
That's awesome, Michael. Thank you for that. I just have, because there's some new custom prospects on the line, all of this functionality comes out of the box. How long, if I'm a new customer and I want to get this up and running ASAP, how long to get this all up and running so I can do this sort of analysis that you've done?
Yeah, so it is very quick because we have this out of the box solution. We just need to provision an instance, so we can do that on cloud. You can also install the solution on premise if you wanted to, but the cloud's obviously a lot quicker. And then you just connect up your data, so you can be up and running within a couple of weeks.
Okay, that's fantastic. And it's all cloud-based, don't need any installs. You can just get a cloud instance up and running. I can give you some of my data. You can link in my sales data, personnel, CapEx, and then off I go planning.
Absolutely. So we've got a specified format for the data feeds. So really it's just a case of getting it in that format and we load it straight in.
Okay. And just last question, all of this functionality comes out of the box. Nothing needs to be, that you've shown today, nothing needs to be customized?
Absolutely. You've got the ability to change it if you want to change some of the visualizations, but yeah, you're 100%, it's all out of the box.
Perfect. All right, now that's awesome, Michael. I'm just going to pass over now to Kurt.
So hi guys, as Belinda said in the beginning, my name is Kurt Recht. I'm the practice manager for data and BI at Mindfull. I am very passionate about data. I promise I'm going to talk about two things. I promise at the end I'll show you some pretty AI dashboards, some cool things. But before that, I want to flip this around and just have a discussion. The first thing I want to ask the participants is, do you know your data? It's a simple question. Do you know your data? Everybody talks about, do you know your customer? Do you know your business? Do you know your market? They ask these questions, but nobody ever asks, do you know your data? And the irony behind that is all those other questions are answered by your data. When I say, do you know your data? The things I'm trying to get at is, do you know the value of your data? Do you know how much your data is worth? Do you know how reliable your data is? Do you even know what data you have? Especially now, a big one, do you know how secure that data is? Now that we've got people working remotely, how do you know that they're not downloading that onto their computers at home? Are you 100% confident that you can reply to GDPR and say, this European citizen that is in my database, his data is safe? These are all very, very pressing questions, and they all span from, do you know your data? Are you in a place that you can confidently go and say, the figures that I'm giving to my people is correct, that it comes from the right place, that it's gone through the right journey? It's a simple question, but it branches off into a lot of other questions that you have to ask around knowing your data. And like I said, these right now are the biggest issues. It doesn't matter where you are along your data journey. It doesn't matter if you're just starting and you're getting your data right, or you're moving to cloud and you're trying to move all your data, or you've had a data warehouse for years and people have just been accessing. These are questions this is a question you should always be asking along that journey is, do I know my data? This is something that Mindfull obviously can help with, is really getting to understand that data, getting to know it, getting to trust the data that I'm using, making sure that the right people have the right data, not just saying, hey, here's everybody's data. We're lucky right now in that New Zealand doesn't have very strict regulations on the data. The rest of the world does. New Zealand will be getting it soon. We are bound by global regulations such as GDPR. So there is things that are coming that are going to make sure that you're going to have to know your data. I'm kind of promoting or advising that people get ahead of that curve. Again, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're just building your first data warehouse or you have multiple data warehouses across multiple clouds. Get to know your data. Nowadays, there's great tools out there. There's great cataloging tools that help with that. We can also help implement those tools that give you that full 360 view of knowing your data, know where your data comes from, know where it's getting used, knowing the impact. If I should make a change of my data, what happens, what reports are affected, knowing who's actually looking at the data, knowing what people are looking at data, giving your data more meaningful information, giving stewardship so people know straight away where to then look. I mean, nowadays there's so much data, it often becomes a difficult task just trying to find the right data. This is all stuff that goes into that question of know your data. It's something that I definitely think all companies should be getting a grasp of, and it's something that we can help with, getting that understanding. That's from a security, from a governance perspective, from a stewardship, from just using your data. It's just one question that I really want you guys to kind of think of is, do you know your data? As Belinda mentioned, data is the new gold. It's now seen as much as an asset as your buildings, as your vehicles, as your employees. Your data is important, and I think more and more companies are realizing this. The more I chat to my customers, the more they're going and saying, well, we want to move to cloud. We need to move to cloud. We need to give people access to that data. I know with this COVID coming up, I know of companies that have 4,000 staff, they only plan for 500 VPN connections. So they're trying to juggle 500 VPN connections between 4,000 staff. It's just, they weren't prepared. It's something that nobody could have predicted, but it's something that's happened, and it's something that I think let's be more prepared in the future. And the first thing we do is get an understanding of our data. So now that you got that question in mind, I thought I'd show you a little bit of a cool demo here. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. So this is Cognos Analytics 11.1.5. A big thing that Cognos is driving is AI and making dashboards simple. It shouldn't be that only very specialist skills can build dashboards to tell other people what they should be looking at. It should be a case of anybody can come and find the data that they need and that they want. So what I've done here is I've taken a bunch of different disparate data sets. I grabbed some public data, I grabbed some sample databases, and I brought them all together just to show you guys how, and this was done relatively quickly, how I can get all this different data, bring it together, and I can expose whatever may be meaningful to me. So whoever I am in the business, whether I'm a CEO or a DBA or a CFO or CIO, it doesn't matter. This could be the employee's dashboard. It could be your actual people on the ground that look at this dashboard. It's whatever's meaningful to them. It can be brought together into a single view. And Cognos, like I said, it's really underpinned by AI. And as I'm going through this, I'll show you why it's more tailored to be simplistic, in that anybody should be able to ask a question. You should be able to ask your data, tell me this. And where Cognos is heading is you really can do that. So like I said, here I've brought a bunch of data sets. Here's public data. This is the latest confirmed cases of corona, and it's spread out across New Zealand. This could be anything. This is potentially the latest newsfeed to say, well, is lockdown going to be extended? It could be videos, it could be tutorial videos of how to do things. It really could be anything that you embed in here. And when I say I've managed to link everything, so I've modeled everything so that if I wanted to look at specific things, I'd be able to do that. If I wanted to look at the sales on this day, for example, everything is going to reflect. And I want to see, so this was sales per day, and I want to see this employee, what did they do on that day? They've done the most. I could then go and drill down to that level, so I can really get to deep dive into my data And it all happens very, very quickly and very easy from a single point. It's no longer me going to this report, me then going to the guy next to me going, hey, can you pull me this report? And then him going to somebody else saying, hey, can you get me this data? It's a single view. Everything's there. Everything's quick and easy access. Yeah, so that gives you that view. Another cool thing, and this is where I'm starting to talk about the AI, is I can go and say, show me some insights. Now, this is nothing I've built. I haven't told this thing about any insights. This is something that it's suggesting. It's saying, well, I found some interesting things. First of all, did you know the average across this period that you've taken is this? I've also found meaningful differences. Now, when it says meaningful differences, it says, this value seems unusually high. I'm 95% confident that this value is unusually high. I'm also 95% confident that this value is unusually low. There's all kinds of other insights. These are just some examples that it found here. Based on the data it has, it's actually going to tell you other things that you may not have thought to look at. It may show you trends. You'll see when I do an exploration, it may show you things, it may group things that you might not have thought. It may put these sales into groupings, say, well, perhaps you classify it like this. This is AI driven. This is all Cognos going, from what you've looked at previously, have you thought about looking at this? Another little cool feature in the new Cognos, let's just turn those insights off, is forecasting. Now, this is different to the forecasting that Michael did in that this isn't human forecasting. This is purely statistical forecasting. It's got an engine that runs in the background and it does this for you. I can very quickly say, based on my sales for the last month, what are the next 5 days going to look like? And it's going to show me here, and it's going to give me percentages of how confident it is based on the data, how much data it has. Obviously, the more data you have, the better the readings are. That's how AI works. The more data you can give it, the better it learns. But it's going to basically say, well, this is what I predict your sales to be over the next 5 days. And I could change that to 10 days. I could make it 20 days. I could make whatever period I want. I could be running this whole dashboard at a yearly or monthly or weekly or even daily. But it's going to say, this is what I think your sales are going to do. Similarly here, I could go and do forecasts on this one. And almost any of these graphs, you can enable this feature. And this is, for example, I want to see my unique customers. And I can see I'm losing more and more unique customers. And I can see that that's going to continue. That trend is going to continue based on the data I have or the data that I've fed it. Again, you might come back tomorrow and this might change, that forecast might change because your data may have changed. You may have got new data. You may have had a great day yesterday with massive sales and it takes into consideration. So these forecasts might change on a day-to-day basis, depending on how you look at your data. So that's just some of the forecasting features. Next, I told you, you can really understand your data and you can really start exploring. So this is where it's AI leading you to ask correct questions around your business. So if I go exploration, I can create new explorations. Now, this is something that I haven't built this before. I've literally just clicked on that now and I've said, okay, well, what explorations I have? And when I say, again, going back to plain English, it starts to try and translate data into meaningful sentences. It's simple English. It's trying to say, well, these are things I found. So you don't have to be a data analyst to kind of understand what your data is showing you. Another thing I can do is start using things that it's found about your data. And these are things that it's going to suggest. So it's found all these metrics and it's going to start suggesting, well, why don't you look at profit, for example? And it's going to say, okay, well, let me look at all the things I can tell you about profit. And it's going to give you some visualizations. It's going to say, well, these are things that I think you should be doing to look at profit. Let's choose this one, for example. This is, like I said, this is not me. I haven't pre-built any of this. This is purely the system saying, I'm scanning a term that I found, profit, and I'm going to suggest things about that. So this is nothing that I've built, and it actually goes, and the more you do it, the more it's going to suggest. It's also going to learn to see what you like. If it sees that you like bar graphs, it's going to suggest more bar graphs. If it sees you like pie charts, it'll suggest more pie charts. It uses a lot of your interaction with the system as well as its own interaction. So it's going to say, if I want to show certain measures, they are actually better shown in a pie chart. So here, for example, here what's this giving me? It's giving me quantity and stock item key by profit. So it's showing me that for each of my stock items, what am I making? So total number of results stocked item profit is 228,000. Some values of quantity range from minimum of 8,000 to a maximum of 4 million. These are figures that it's done. It's gone and created groupings, profit groups. It's put the different quantities of items in those different profit groups. It's shown me how much there are versus the amount of items. Like I said, this is 100% the system just suggesting things for me to look at. I could then very easily use this and go and add this to my dashboards. I could go and create new dashboards based on these explorations. I could create new explorations from this one. I could go and explore the data even further based on these and go and have all these cards with a whole bunch of explorations that are completely reusable across my business. So I'm just going to close this exploration now. Go back to one second, don't want to save. Like I said, you could save then reuse it anywhere in any other dashboards. The next thing I'm going to show you is, again, asking those simple questions about your data. And this is where AI is heavily underpinned. So if I had to ask a question like, show revenue, for example, I just want to stress the fact I have not put any term in any of my data sets is anything that says revenue. Nowhere is anywhere that I have hidden revenue or put a tag that goes revenue. This thing is going to say, okay, show revenue. It's going to use its own libraries to say, well, what is revenue? Revenue, for the most part, is profit. So it's associated revenue with profit. This, again, is something that will get smarter. The more you ask it questions, the smarter it's going to get about answering those questions. And it's going to see what kind of questions you might follow up with. So it actually indexes all of that. But this has gone in and it's smart enough to know revenue is profit. And it's going to tell me a whole bunch of stuff about profit. If I had revenue, it would have actually brought me a whole bunch of stuff about revenue. It's going to tell me what data sets have profit in it. It's going to tell me about what reports have profit in it. It's going to actually tell me to go look at these reports or these data sources. It's also going to ask me, it's going to tell me other things that, other questions I can ask around it. What columns influence profit? And I can go to each one of these and do that same thing. It's going to say, well, profits influenced by unit price, tax amount, quantity, a whole bunch of other things. And I can do the same thing. I can then go and interrogate, really getting to the bottom of that data. And it's all based on simple questions, simple language questions. What is this? What is that? How do I do this? How do I do this? It's definitely the future of data, and getting to use your data. This is purely talking about, previously I talked about knowing your data. This is using your data. How do I use that data? So yeah, another thing I want to show you, and this is, so we support a bunch of BI tools, like Power BI. One of the reasons I want to show you Cognos is this ties in very nicely with Michael's story in that I can connect directly, and Cognos is one of the only ones that can natively connect to a planning tool. Whatever Michael does, so whatever changes he makes, I can look at those versions. So if you've got different budget versions, different forecasts, Cognos can plug directly into those versions, and I can see it here. Again, like I said, this really emphasizes that this is a unified platform for a view of all your data, of seeing what data is meaningful. So we've gone through the journey. We now know our data. We trust our data. We've now brought it into here. And now we can really expose that data to anybody relatively quickly. We can create dashboards. People should be, at the end of the day, creating their own dashboards and their own things based on what they want to see. So it allows you to see what I want to see. Michael might want to see something completely different to me. Belinda will see something, a different view. Again, this allows me to see exactly what I want to see, and it's all in one place. It's a unified view. It's underpinned by AI, so it's going to learn. It's just going to get smarter and smarter the more data it gets and the more I interact with it. This is, of course, available. There is mobile views, and you can actually build your dashboards to mobile views. So if you prefer looking at this on the fly in the morning, you want to see how your sales did yesterday, you can create those views. Any view in dashboard you can create can also be, shrunk to size to for a mobile device, a tablet, a phone. This version is the enterprise version, but essentially you get a on-demand cloud version. I think, you know, pricing is $22 per user, and most of the stuff I've shown you here is available in that cloud version, in that basic edition cloud version. It's something that you can get, you can go and subscribe to almost immediately. You know, you're up and running within a couple of minutes, and you can start building these dashboards. It's definitely a shift of how they're doing this. You know, I think they've realized people need to get data quick, and especially now with this COVID, these are things that I think a lot of companies are battling. You know, they're trying to run around to get a report from X, get a report from Y, report Z didn't run. How do I get this now? I'm missing this. Well, this hopefully would solve a lot of those problems. Yeah, and again, just I want to leave you with final question. Know your data. Do you know it? With that, I'm just going to hand back to Belinda.
Thanks so much, Kurt. That was awesome. That's really great. I love it. So just a question from me, new prospects on the line. Michael's out of the box solution. He's done all the number crunching in terms of that impact analysis. How quickly can I get a dashboard like this out to my people? How quickly would it be to set something up like this?
So it really depends on your data, but nowadays they've built in data modules, so it becomes very quickly. This dashboard I built, and like I said, I've got about 5 or 6 completely different data sources, and I built this within a couple of hours. It really is an idea of you want to be quick and active. You don't want these long deployments of trying to build, you know, everything into one. You want to start working, and you can grow it as time goes.
Totally agree. Totally agree. That's awesome.